back, Tarot fam, to part 2 of the Venezuela situation that we have going on. In part 1, we looked at the energetic landscape and the power dynamics surrounding the U.S. actions in Venezuela, the pressure, the collapse, and the forced reset that's unfolding right now. Today's part 2. And this is where we're going to look at what comes next with a little bit of projection, the likely trajectory of this situation, broader global impact. We talked a little bit about Iran, China, and Russia in the last one, and how this energy is going to evolve over time. If you haven't watched part 1, you can go on over here and you can click on that card and go see what I had to say in the first part. I strongly recommend starting here because this reading is going to directly build on that foundation. So I hope you guys are having a great day. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Annabelle. I'm a tarot practitioner and psychic for over 35 years. This channel is about intuitive analysis, accountability, and helping you understand what's unfolding beneath the headlines. Psychic breaking news is one of my favorite things to do. I love politics. I hope you do too. So before we begin, I want to just do a quick reminder. This reading explores energetic possibilities and trajectories, not fixed outcomes. Very few things are fated and fixed in our lives. So we're looking at trends, pressures, and momentum. We're not making declarations of fact or guaranteeing specific events. I do hold myself to account on a lot of my readings. You will see I am grading my 2025 predictions for celebrities, public figures, and politicians. And right now I have a pretty good GPA on that. So my lowest score so far was Queen Camilla at 60%. My highest score was 85%. And I think that that was Donald Trump. So I have a pretty good GPA at this point. So if you want accountability, you can go check out my grading. I'm using 3 different kinds of AI to do grading on that, not just grading them myself. So I'm trying to use an impartial and digital accountability partner. So let's just check in. I added some numerology in this year. I also have some surprises coming up for 2026 with astrology. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Those of you that are a part of this channel, you know that I love remote viewing. I don't consider myself an expert in remote viewing, but I am pretty gosh darn good at it. So United States in numerology is in the world, we are all in a universal year 1. That's 2026. It adds up to 1, which is new cycles, forced resets. Remember the great reset everybody was talking about. There's power reordering in a universal year 1 and fresh leadership structures that are going to happen. So the United States has been the leader of the Western world for a long, long time. So I'm wondering how that's going to be affected. We'll talk about that in another reading though. So year 1 energy doesn't ask permission, as we saw with the U.S. government not going to Congress, not getting permission for this exercise in Venezuela. It pushes change through whether systems are ready or not. So I think that that is so obvious in this event that we saw overnight, Friday night. So, it's definitely a curious world that we live in. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first video. If you've already watched it again, you can jump on that and go see it. There'll be a card at the beginning and also a card at the end. You can click directly on that. But I am going to bring up some cards now. So if you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and go do it. I'm going to make the cards nice and big so you can enjoy them. I'm using the Madame Clara 5-penny tarot and 5-cent tarot and the 2-penny oracle companion deck for this. So let's get in here. We're going to talk about the immediate path over the next 30 to 60 days. Here is splitting my deck, well shuffled. Cards are steaming today. One card, the Beyond. Now, we saw this in the last reading as well. It is the 24th card, numbered 23rd in the Madame Clara deck. This is an unusual and novel card for this particular deck. And it is about transcending this current moment, moving into the beyond, if you will. I like to do noun and verb, or noun and adjective for all of these. Page of buttons. This is our brave new world. The short-term trajectory is we are going to create some stability here out of thin air. So I do think, and again, I'm trying to be as impartial as possible, I do think that we're going to find some stabilization of Venezuela and the United States. Keep in mind that a big piece of this puzzle was the drugs that were coming into the United States by President Trump's, I almost said Governor Trump. Oh, that was weird. Maybe we'll talk about that later. By Trump's estimation, 25,000 deaths per each boat that comes over with fentanyl and other substances. He's talking about the cocaina and all of that this morning in his, I'm recording this on Saturday morning. He was talking about that in his press conference today. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Marco Rubio speaks, Pete Hegseth speaks. We hear a lot about the events that went on and why it was not run through Congress before the action was taken. A lot of people are going to have an issue with that. So I do think that this is going to create a stabilizing effect, both here in the United States and in Venezuela. I'm going to predict that this is over the next 30 to 60 days. So in Venezuela, we are going to see the night of matches. All of the troubles are going to calm down. The Empress, so I do think that there's going to be some conflict as a result of that. I think people aren't going to know who to trust, who to kind of lean into. If you watched my first video, I did say that I think that Venezuela in the next few years is going to step up with a government that is not quite as in alignment with the United States, but more in alignment with the culture and sensibility, the cultural sensibilities of Venezuela. So I think that they are going to have a truly Venezuelan government. It's not going to be the United States light. So I think that that is actually a good thing. I think everyone should maintain some identity. One of the things that we have here in the United States, it's called the Great Melting Pot, and we do expect immigration to come in. I don't want to get into an immigration conversation, but we do expect immigration to come in and kind of find their way within the American system and live that American dream. I think, we're not so much trying to impose the American dream in Venezuela as we are trying to impose American stability in Venezuela. So, let me know what you think in the comments on that. So, will they be able to contain the purported dictatorship, narco dictatorship that was in the country? Will the United States be able to do that next 30 to 60 days? Has it been done? The unknown, egotism. Now, this is another unique card for Madame Clara's. This is the 22nd card of the Madame Clara 5-cent tarot. And the unknown is kind of going into, when it is in the upright, it's in the reverse here. It's going into a world of chaos. This is right after the Big Bang, where everything's kind of flying around and going crazy. Or maybe you're in the upside down and you've got all those particles floating around. Who watched Stranger Things? Let me know in the comments, because I thought it was great. On the second watch, I had to watch it twice. So this, I think, what we are going to see with the containment of the drama, I do think that they're not seeing the rabbits that went down into the rabbit warren. They're not seeing the second, third, fourth level narco dictatorship systems of control. I don't think that they're seeing those. And I think that they are really presuming that they have, eliminated the snake and the body and the head and everything's gone. I think that they're assuming that. I think that there are systems that are in play. And psychically, I am getting that there are other countries that are supporting those systems. So Is it just Venezuelans there that are running these not so nice processes and systems, and that has taken over the government? Yes, I do think that there are other countries that are going to be involved in this. We're going to see other elements that had a hand in this. So I think the assumption that we have destroyed the snake rather than cut the head off the hydra, I think we have a little bit of a hydra situation here. So the next 30 to 60 days, they're going to have to be very careful about those rabbits poking their heads up out of the rabbit holes and out of the rabbit warrens. They're going to have to really keep an eye on them. What is our verb on this? Queen of Buttons. There are people out there right now that when you remove a leader, a power vacuum comes into play. We now have a power vacuum. And what happens? We have people that are dying to get into those places of control and leadership. So we're seeing that right now. We're seeing under the surface, under the, in those rabbit warrens, we are seeing people that are vying for positions of power. That next 30 to 60 days, I think they're going to make their decisions on who is going to be the next up and coming person of the Legion of Doom in Venezuela and surrounding countries. I think we're going to see that. And I am going to make a prediction here. I think that leadership is coming not from Venezuela, but from another neighboring country. It is someone who is almost, I don't want to say being imported like Lenin was into revolutionary Russia, or reinserted into revolutionary Russia. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. I think this is someone who is being imported from another country, who is a strong leader, who can say, I am sort of Venezuelan, perhaps partially Venezuelan, and has a story to tell. My family was run out of here because of XYZ, and now we're back to regain our position in the world. There is a very feminine energy that's coming out of that as well. And I don't know if it's a husband and wife team that are going to try and come in and take leadership. But again, this is in the next 30 to 60 days. I think we are going to see a little bit of a power struggle. Let's dig onto them just for a second. Is it part of the transitional authority that we're dealing with? Justice in reverse and the page of matches. Is it the vice president? Perhaps the vice president. I've got self-fulfillment, collaboration, because there is a feminine energy there. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez is allegedly in Russia. So there are some sources that are saying that she left the country. Her and her brother, Jorge Rodriguez, he's the head of the National Assembly, is in Caracas. 3 sources with knowledge of his whereabouts have said Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, did appear in an audio message on a state television earlier in the day calling for proof of life of Maduro and his wife Celia, while Jorge Rodriguez has not appeared since the attack. Now, keep in mind that there was quite a notable bombing there. So I don't know if they're keeping things secret, if we don't know exactly where everyone is, but I am getting a very strong male and female energy here. In the press conference this morning, again, this is being recorded on Saturday, I believe Marco Rubio said that they were working with Vice President Delcy Rodriguez on the transition. So that may change. We're talking about the next 30 to 60 days. I think that this is an effort for this brother and sister crew to possibly step into a really serious leadership role. I don't know how that's going to go over. How will the U.S. respond to this? We're going to use an oracle card as well. 8 of Needles and 6 of Buttons. There's going to be a strong hand in this. The United States is going to take a very strong hand in terms of leadership from this particular individual and her brother. Will that work? Next 30 to 60 days. Knight of Buttons, the Universe in reverse, and the Fool. I do declare that I want our individuals to be very careful about this, because I am worried that there's going to be boots on the ground working with this team, and something may happen that is dire and serious. So again, I'm making another prediction. But with tarot, what we are doing is we are helping you navigate your very best future. So I don't know what representatives are going to be boots on the ground in Venezuela. I want them to be supremely careful. This is not a situation where they should be at ease being in that country at all. I want them to be very careful. Very, very high prices are being put on leadership heads. I am talking about Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump. They are going to have bounties on them. Certain outlets will, next 30 to 60 days. So U.S. government representatives, whoever you are, that are going to be negotiating the transfer of power, want you to be extremely careful. Sleep with one eye open. So let's look at the midterm direction of this. So how does this situation develop and evolve over the next 3 to 6 months? How is U.S. intrusion into the Venezuelan machine, how is it seen by the people in Venezuela 3 to 6 months from now? The world in reverse, unfulfillment. I don't think that the United States is going to be as successful as they would like. I think there's going to be guerrilla type retaliation in Venezuela. I think they're going to see these small pockets of individuals that are going to be disruptors to the new process, the new regime, if you will. So I do think that they need to be very careful about it. I think that the United States needs to understand that the smaller effects, and take a page out of Vietnam here, you know, the smaller, sneakier attacks are going to be problematic. I think they are going to be putting out brush fires everywhere and not dealing with a larger, more visible kind of enemy. They're not going to be getting the kind of pushback politically, red tape wise, you know, democratically. They're not going to be getting pushback from that, but they're going to have these smaller issues that keep evolving. Again, we're talking about the next 3 to 6 months. So under the surface, 10 of matches. Oof, I don't like that. And justice, cause and effect, 6 of cups, and the 8 of needles in reverse again. So 3 to 6 months, I do think that there is a quality of life for Venezuelans that returns. I think that is through contributions and support that the United States and the world at large are going to offer up to Venezuelans, boots on the ground Venezuelans, regular everyday people like you and me. I think that there is going to be a calmness. Now, one of the things that I would like to, and I know Jesus Enrique Rosas, the body language guy, one of my friends told me that he was reporting live on this and that he was ecstatic and very happy about it. I want to see what the people in Venezuela are responding with. I want to see how they are dancing in the streets or protesting in the streets. What are they doing? I want to know that kind of optics. Again, notwithstanding a wag the dog kind of situation. If you're not familiar with that, Wag the Dog was a movie with Dustin Hoffman where a war was constructed in a vacuum. It was just a digital presentation of a war. It was a way to manipulate people through media. Good morning for the rest of us that are living in 2026. I got it right, 2026. But I do want to see what people are responding with. Jesus Enrique Rosas, I love him so much. And I really respect his opinion as a Venezuelan. So I do think that that is a good thing. So his opinion, I'm taking that to heart. I think that that's we're seeing some things that are going to be good. So I hope that we are going to raise the quality of life for everyday Venezuelans by this action. But again, we're talking next 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months. 8 of needles in reverse outcome for 3 to 6 months. Let's get some more information on that. 7 of matches. Balance is restored. The Knight of buttons in reverse and the Knight of matches. So I do think in the next 3 to 6 months, we are going to see quality of life for everyday people kind of quell. I think those incidents that we talked about with the rabbits popping out of the hole and maybe trying to find a new leader for the opposition, and I'm saying the opposition to what the United States is envisioning for Venezuela. I think we'll see less of those in 3 to 6 months. So I think that that will look a little bit better. How about the rebuilding of Venezuela and the redistribution of power? The rebuilding. Are we going to see that? Are we going to see that? 9 of matches and the beyond again. 3 to 6 months, I think there will be a bit of a bitter taste in everyday Venezuelans' mouths, because I think they're going to feel that this is just an implantation of the United States government into Venezuela. And that's not going to be a good fit. That is a dress that is 4 sizes too small. It's not really what they want. They did not push back against the government, the prior government, Maduro's government, and the absence of an election. It's my understanding in 2024 the elections were canceled. So I don't think it's going to be exactly a right fit. It's like when you want pizza from New York, but you bought it in Kansas and it's just not right. California Pizza Kitchen I'm talking about here. So it's just not going to be a perfect fit. And I think when we have the beyond there, it's still keeping exploration open to find a government that's going to work, again, with the cultural sensibilities in this country. Speaking of Venezuela, not the United States. So I think that is something that we're going to see. The power redistribution. I do think that there's going to be a push from the American influences that are there to put someone who is more representative of our democratic republic rather than what is a really good fit for Venezuela. So looking at that, very interesting. Let's get an oracle card. Let's pull a two penny oracle just to see power redistribution. We get circumspection. So I think really we have to look back to the optimal Venezuela. And often I say, optimal United States, the United States that really felt great was probably the United States under President Kennedy. I said it, guys. I said it, President Kennedy. You all know that I'm a libertarian, and I do think that the intent of the Kennedy administration was to be more libertarian. I think it was to be more kind of in the middle. And famously, Sylvia Brown, who is a late psychic, she was on Montel Williams. Later in her career, I know there was a lot of things that were debunked that she had said. In particular, there was one young gal who was missing, and she had told the family that that young gal was deceased, and she was in fact not. Again, accountability. Sometimes we don't get it right. Sometimes we get it wrong. And that was a circumstance where Sylvia Brown had gotten it wrong. But she did make a prediction while she was alive. And this was something that stuck with me, that she felt the United States was going to go to less of a two-party system and more of a two-party representative system. So like a co-presidency with a Democratic and a Republican president. I think that perhaps we have evolved into a more libertarian or moderately positioned leadership here in the United States. So, and I think we're getting there. It's not President Trump that is representing that per se, but I think that we're getting there. And I think, of course, we have the Gen Xers who we've been sitting on our couches with our remote controls and our video game controllers, and we're getting annoyed. We're old and we're getting annoyed and we're ready to complain about stuff. And leadership is going to be one of them. I think that we are not going to skip over the Gen X leadership in the United States. I think we're going to get a Gen X president. I think we're going to get one. And I think it's going to be a more moderately balanced presidency. So not necessarily a co-presidency, but a president that represents both sides equally, both sides of our political aisle equally. I think the time has come for that. So circumspection in terms of the Venezuelan government, I think we are going to look back to the salad days of Venezuela and maybe tap into those leadership types, and maybe we get almost like a renaissance of the Venezuelan government. So I think that that's pretty exciting. So let's look at a little bit more long term. So what's the arc of this reset? What's the arc? And we'll do a little yellow brick road, and we'll do it in an arc. So the path, 9 of matches, unveiling the good things that are in Venezuela after all of the troubles. The pressure is, once again, we keep getting the beyond, which is described as the soul, belief, higher being, higher things here. We are looking at a glorious and grand future. So that is the pressure. Do we accomplish that in one fell swoop? Never. You can't paint a masterpiece in 20 minutes. Well, maybe somebody could, but you can't paint a masterpiece in 20 minutes. Hidden hand here is the 5 of Needles, reconciliation. And I do think that that hidden hand is some of those narco kind of power seeking individuals and personality. So I think that's the hidden hand. And I don't want the Venezuelan new government that's coming in to forget that sometimes you have little split offs that are going to come back and resurrect the original government and the original dictatorship. And I'm going to do that in air quotes because I'm trying to be impartial here. Dictatorship. The public face here, 7 of matches. We are going to see the country stabilize in perspective, in promotion. We're going to see some things stabilize. So within a year, I think that we're going to see very happy people. People are gardening and they're having weddings and everything just looks hunky-dory. So I think we're going to see that. Public, private goal, Page of Matches, to make Venezuela a world power in terms of oil and commercial endeavors. That is what we're looking at here. We're looking at making this not a leader in those industries, but a notable force. We are going to see it as a notable force. This is raw materials, the Page of Matches, raw materials that we can work with, that we can make into something new. Remember, when we have the pages in tarot, pages have the ideas. They're the dreamers of the dream. Knights go out and make that thing happen. Queens, they decorate it, they make it extra, they put some sparkle on it, and then the kings maintain it and rule over. So we've got beginner energy here. This is Weeblo energy. We are just getting out on the ground floor. So likely, that's going to be our public face. Private goal, 3 of buttons, to make it a working piece of the puzzle here. This is to get a partnership with the United States. They are going to partner up with the United States and some other countries. 3 of buttons suggests that we're going to have a few different outposts. So I don't think that Trump wants to decimate the relationship with China, Iran, and Russia, maybe Iran a little bit. But I think what he wants them to do is correct the relationship and universalize the relationship with the United States, China, Russia, and kind of make money for all, to create relationships that are going to be sustainable and workable with all of them. And we all have these situations. You can't be friends with this one. You can't be friends with that one if you're friends with me, blah, 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 blah. You can't comment on that person's channel. You can't go to their party. You can't do this. And I think that is something that we're trying to eradicate in this situation, or that the energies are trying to eradicate. Remember, we're looking 12 months into the future, and this is not fated energy. We are not going to say that this is a definite outcome. There's always free will that we're going to see in there. So what is the likely pivot in this situation? 8 of buttons. I think, and the description of this card is perfectionism. And we cannot make things into a utopia just because we want it. Sometimes we have to understand that our outline, our dream of what something is going to be a little bit different. Whether that's the career path of your children, the outcome of a relationship, the advancement or trajectory of you in your career. Sometimes, no matter how hard we work, those things are not accessible. The intent of this situationship that we have with Venezuela, I don't think that we're going to see the outcome that is intended at this time. I think the proposed plan is something that doesn't work over time because it does not work with the, again, cultural sensibilities of this particular country. So do we see an economic shift for them? Economic shift. 5 of buttons. We're going to see more money coming in from different places. So I don't know if there was a limit as to the relationships in terms of oil and raw material that Venezuela was doing with other countries. I don't know. And if you guys know, you can drop it in the comments down below if they were reluctant to do business with like the United States and other countries that are aligned with the United States because of the relationships that they had with Iran, China, and Russia. So I think that we see them in terms of economy, they are going to be benefiting from working with other countries. What about governance structures? Justice, governance structures, I do think that they're going to make things a bit more fair. And this is maybe where the outcomes that the United States is looking for divert from the outcomes that Venezuela is more comfortable with. I think that they are going to say, well, we don't want to do that because we want to do this. This is something that we historically do. Sovereignty questions moving into the next year. Are they going to be a sovereign country? 4 of buttons, possession. So over the next year, I do think that they will be an occupied country by the United States. Is this a good thing? You guys are going to have different opinions on it. I certainly know my girlfriend who's very upset about this is going to feel like we're occupying a country. I do think that their sovereignty is going to have some friction. I think that we will see that in a very limited way, because I think in the United States, we will get some different press on that, different media on that than they will get in Venezuela. So we'll have to keep our ear to the ground and make sure that we pay attention. So how does the international community respond over time? So the allies of the United States, how are they going to respond? Noun, verb, or adjective. And our critics, noun, adjective. So our allies, Seven of Cups in reverse and the Lovers. So what they're going to say is that the country was not maximized, that their output was not maximized, their resources were not maximized. And now with that firm hand of the United States having a real estate developer in charge of the United States, they're going to be able to maximize that more, that this relationship is going to be beneficial, at least for the United States. Our critics, King of Cups, Page of Matches. So our critics are going to see that there is an increased happiness of the people of Venezuela. However, they don't like how it was done. They don't like how that action was taken. So that's what they're going to say, is that it wasn't done with Congress approval, that it was, that broke laws around the world, all kinds of rules and regulations that we have with our exchange between different countries. So that is what I think the allies or our critics are going to say, is that this was an illegal opportunity taken by the United States. Will there be some diplomatic pressure as a result of that? Two of Matches. Again, the Beyond, guys, that card keeps showing up. And Queen of Needles. I think that we are going to hear from the international organization. So is that NATO? Are we going to hear some words from The Hague? I do think that we are going to the vision that the United States has for Venezuela is going to be very, very different from what the law keepers of the world are going to think. They're going to say, you can't just bustle your way in there and blunder your way. I shouldn't say blunder, because it seems like it was pretty surgical situation that they did in Venezuela. But I think that the means and the method is going to be up for discussion. Let's put it that way, up for discussion. And I think that there's going to be a lot of suggestions that maybe there needs to be a world representative in there to make sure that the United States, Donald Trump, is not getting too deep in his power. I do think that over the next year, we are going to see people saying that Donald Trump did the same thing that Putin was doing in Ukraine with this Venezuelan endeavor. I think we're going to see some critics that are saying that. And I think they're going to be connecting some dots on laws, rules, and regulations of engagement that will suggest that, if not prove it. So narrative battles. Are we going to see some narrative battles here? Universe in reverse, 10 of Matches. And indecision with that Two of Needles in reverse. So, with the Universe in reverse, that is more of a celebration, of a sustained celebration. And the 10 of Matches is really, this was a difficult endeavor. We have accomplished it. The Two of Needles, the narrative is just always going to go in two ways, as it typically does with Donald Trump. With Donald Trump, we always see, there are very extreme views. People either love him or hate him. And, I try to have a measured approach. I do feel that in 2016, he was the president that we needed, not necessarily wanted. In the 2020 election, I do think that he won. I'm sorry. I do think that he won. In the 2024 election, I do think that was a reaction and a real vote for a vote against incompetent leadership. Or inappropriate leadership, than it was a vote for Donald Trump. I don't like what he said about Rob Reiner. I don't like what he said about it. And he made another comment just recently that was kind of shady. and that was one of my daughter's issues. She does not like that Donald Trump, has a lot to say and is tweeting, without thinking about it. And I'm tending to agree now. I like transparency, but I do also like etiquette and protocol. I do want, not that I'm C3PO, but I do like etiquette and protocol. And I do like individuals that are more careful about the messaging that they're crafting. So do we live in difficult times where we need a louder voice in the room? Yes, I do think we do. But I think this is going to maintain a narrative battle, for and against Trump. I think we'll see that for the next year. So do we see more political division within the United States regarding Donald Trump? Yes, universe in reverse. Again, so we keep seeing the beyond and universe in reverse. So keep those in mind, guys. Yes, I do think we do. Political division. Are there going to be challenges to his authority as a result of this? 1, the Lovers. 2, 7 of Cups. And 5 of Buttons. Yes, I think that there is going to be a renewed, over the next 12 months, prediction here, I think we're going to see a renewed presentation of Trump as a megalomaniac who is out of his mind. I think they're going to try to frame this, especially after the presser today, because in that presser, he looked absolutely exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. I think they're going to say, this is someone who is insane in the membrane. This is someone who is presenting megalomania kind of behavior, and that he is just not suited to be president, that he has delusions. That is the 7 of Cups in reverse, and that he is taking away opportunities and replacing them with his own desires and megalomania. I'm going to keep saying megalomania. The 5 of Buttons, we are going to see people say that he is not for the people, with the people, that he is making decisions unilaterally. I don't think that that is necessarily true. But I do think over the next year, we're going to see more calls for impeachment, the 25th. I think we're going to see more of that directly as a result of this action in Venezuela. So, the old tripe of he is enriching his friends, his millionaire and multimillionaire and billionaire friends. Oh, love it. It's a tycoon. I think we are going to see more discussions of that. So buckle up. If you are a Trump supporter, buckle up. They're going to say he's crazy. They're going to say that he is delusional and that he is a madman with his finger on the button. The nuclear button. I think we're going to see that. So that cycle is going to return. Let's get back to Venezuela. What does Venezuela need in order to stabilize and heal? So let's look at their infrastructure. Empress in reverse, they are really dependent on us to help them with that infrastructure. Again, with the oil resources that they have, getting equipment in there with a government that possibly was not really investing in that. Now, this is where I think the United States comes in. I think we are going to invest in the equipment, in the, pumping for oil and getting it refined and moving it on out. I think we're going to be the investors in that situation. So I do think that there's going to be some pushback on that kind of investment in infrastructure for them. Leadership, legitimacy, recklessness, us getting in there and saying, we're going to be the big boss. I think it's a little bit reckless. Collective trauma, 7 of matches. We have conviction there. I do think in the next year or so, we will see that people are very measured about their opinion about how this stabilized the country. I think the good sides and the bad sides, the left and the right, whatever you want to call it, in Venezuela are going to say, you know what, something needed to change. Was this the right antidote for our situation? Maybe not, but the right the right thing was to upend the government and the leadership. Just had a deja vu there, guys. So let me know in the comments if you've ever had a deja vu. So I think that they'll all agree that something needed to happen. Was this the exact thing that needed to happen? The correct tonic? Maybe not. Maybe not. So so there we go. I do think that. So advice for the global public. So what should people watching this be aware of or do energetically? So if you are feeling curious or unsettled about this, what do you need to do? Grounding. The Emperor in reverse. So that's about control. There are things in the world that we cannot control. So getting into a fight across the table from your dear sweet Aunt Tilly, she's usually dead, and we're usually talking about her from the beyond. But if you're fighting with your living dear Aunt Tilly, there's no reason to disrupt your energy in your world if you are not directly affected by this. So having an opinion about it, don't get heated, don't freak out. Media discernment, what do you need to do about that? So Queen of Cups in reverse. Always look at the media discernment with an understanding that there really are actual people, not actors and actresses and players in a play. They're actual people that are being disrupted by this. And so with the media discernment, look to the little people, look to the people that have boots on the ground, look to the people that are walking around the streets in Venezuela, look to them and see what they have to say. Your emotional regulation. Four of Needles. Four of Needles is about, and this is in the upright, it's about rest and recovery. And it's about being patient and taking in as much information as possible so that you can determine what exactly is your platform. So, go to a variety of sources. I like to, Ground News, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but Ground News actually shows you where your holes are in your information cycle and advises you to go and look at some other resources. So for me, when I was in college, I loved the BBC News because it was back in the 90s. It was a bit more balanced and it also gave me a world perspective. I loved BBC News. Now I just kind of go to a whole bunch of different resources. Historically, Fox News, or, in the last 25 years, Fox News has been very, very conservative. And it's gotten a little bit wiggly on that. It's gotten a little bit less conservative. And in some aspects, it's gotten more conservative. So I do try and, watch a variety of news outlets. I love Greg Gutfeld, but sometimes it's a little too goofy for me, even though he loves the Misfits. He's got the Misfits head on there. He's like an old school punk rocker like me. So, I think in terms of your emotional regulation, everybody just kind of calm down and compile your information before you get too upset about this. Like, let the information come in, get it from different resources, maybe give a different news outlet a try, maybe look at a different website or maybe a different YouTube channel. One of the things in the tarot community, that people were very, very anti-Donald Trump, and I was not. And, there were some people that wandered into my channel and were like, oh my God, you're MAGA. And I'm like, I'm not MAGA. I am a libertarian. Like, I've had to say this a million times. I've had to show my slip, flash my boobies at you, flash my political boobies at you. But, being a libertarian means that I am very common sense. I like smaller government, less intrusion. I like 2A. I don't care if you want to, go and do substances. You can marry whoever you want. You can dress however you want. You can transition to whatever you want. You can have a dog. You can have a cat. You can get a parakeet. I don't care. As long as you don't make taxpayers pay for it and you don't force your sensibilities on me and my family. We have a mixed bag here in our household. One of us is very liberal thinking in this household. We haven't shunned that person yet. nor are we intending to. So, I want people to be a lot more open. As we are in a universal year one, I think it is really easy for us to lean more into a libertarian kind of view. And I encourage you to do that. So this part of part 2 actually went pretty long. So I am going to do a bonus part 3, and you'll get that a little bit later on today, on Sunday. So stick around. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And let me know what you think down below. Again, if you want your own magical reading, you can go to my Hypsee link, or you can go to my Calendly link. That is still open and will remain open. I will be working through both the Calendly, my traditional way of booking readings with me, and the Hypsee for instant reading and recorded reading. So hope to see some of you in the future. Stick around though, because you're going to get another part after this, a bonus. We won't call it part 3. We'll just call it bonus section. And I thank you so much for being a part of this and a part of my channel. Have a great rest of your day until I see you in the bonus section.